Tonight, Australia joins the UN in expressing deep concerns about the fate of civilians ahead of an Israeli ground assault on southern Gaza. Police expand calls for dash cam vision as the mystery surrounding Samantha Murphy's disappearance deepens. Margot Robbie among the stars to be recognised in Australia's Film and Television Awards. Adelaide United finals hopes dealt a blow despite an entertaining draw with Perth Glory. And the rise of the runner, more people taking to the streets to improve their fitness. Good evening, Candice Prosser with South Australia's ABC News. Australia has joined the United Nations in saying it's deeply concerned about the fate of civilians in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered his military to draw up a plan to evacuate Palestinian refugees before it begins a ground attack to defeat remaining Hamas fighters. Foreign Minister Penny Wong says civilians must be protected.
More than half of Gaza's population of 2.3 million people have fled to Rafah since the war began in October. Plans for an evacuation ahead of an Israeli ground invasion have intensified feelings of sheer terror.
We're afraid. Where will we go? We're so worried. I don't want to migrate. Whatever Israel wants to do, let it do. I won't go anywhere. I will die in my tent.
The tiny southern city was already overcrowded and not designed for the huge influx of refugees. Disease is spreading as families here are living in unsanitary conditions, making them especially vulnerable. In the past 48 hours, airstrikes on residential buildings have killed more civilians, including children.
There was a very powerful explosion. We heard a lot of screams and stones falling from above. We found a father and his daughter dead on the ground. As you can see, the situation is dire. An entire building has been destroyed without any warning.
The United Nations says there is very little they can do when ground attacks begin.
We're trying to keep civilians fed, keep them dry and warm. It is nearly impossible for us to protect them from tank fire, from artillery shells.
But amongst the barbed wire outside the Rafah tent camps, these refugee kids say they want to decorate the sky.
We have lost all our toys at home as well as our friends and our loved ones. The planes of the Israelis carry out airstrikes while ours do not.
Even if the Israeli military does move these civilians, where would they go? The United Nations says forced displacement is against international law, and Australia's Foreign Minister says she's deeply concerned about reports of this impending operation. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
The Foreign Minister has used a keynote speech in Perth to warn about the risk of conflict in the Indian Ocean, while pressing China to be more open about its military build-up. Penny Wong delivered the warning at a major gathering of foreign ministers and top officials from Indian Ocean states from South Asia through to the Middle East and Eastern Africa.
A gathering of friends at a perilous moment.
The same unprecedented threats that are facing the Pacific Ocean side of the region are also faced on the Indian Ocean side.
New Delhi and Beijing are facing off in the Indian Ocean, with more Chinese warships, surveillance ships and submarines pushing into waters uncomfortably close to India.
Countries of the Indo-Pacific face China's rapid military build-up without the transparency and reassurance that the region looks for from all great powers.
Australia is preparing on its own Indian Ocean territory of Cocos Keeling Islands, lengthening a key runway so high-tech surveillance planes can land there.
We always seek presence in order to reinforce stability.
India and Australia also share very similar anxieties about Chinese diplomacy in some Indian Ocean states.
There is a need to address disinformation, interference, opaque lending practices and coercive trade measures.
Unsustainable debt, opaque lending practices, unviable projects and injudicious choices. Similarly, there are the complexities of dual-purpose agendas.
But some of the countries caught in the tussle between China and India would prefer all the major powers to take a step back. Sri Lanka's president warning that the jostling is making life harder and more unpredictable.
The space for manoeuvrability for littoral states is shrinking fast.
The list of potential hotspots and conflict zones around the globe just seems to keep on growing. And Australia's anxious that the Indian Ocean could join that list in the future. One of the best ways to hedge against that is to form tighter informal bonds with larger numbers of smaller countries in the hope that they can convince the larger powers to keep the peace. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Perth.
US President Joe Biden will appoint a high-level task force to tighten the supervision of classified material during presidential transitions. It comes after the special counsel's report into Joe Biden's handling of classified documents said the president was an elderly man with a poor memory. The vice president has slammed the comments as politically motivated.
As a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Police have called off search crews scouring bushland for a Ballarat mother almost a week after she went missing. Investigators are expanding calls for dashcam and CCTV footage as the mystery of the 51-year-old's disappearance deepens.
Once overrun with search teams, the sprawling forest to Ballarat's east was today comparatively empty, apart from some dedicated locals.
It's pretty dense, as you can see, but everyone does a little bit. You never know, they might find something.
We've come up from Melbourne just to have a look through. I'm a mother of 3, and if I was missing, I would want everyone on board trying to find me.
Police confirmed their officers, alongside SES and CFA volunteers, have been called back from the active search for the beloved mother of 3. After 6 days of detailed searches between her Eureka Street home, where she set out for a trail run on Sunday morning, and Buninyong, about 12 kilometres south, found no trace of the 51-year-olds. The police now want anyone with CCTV or dashcam footage from Ballarat East, Mount Helen or Buninyong during the day on Sunday to come forward, saying even if the footage does not depict Samantha, detectives are keen to review all footage in the areas between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
It is a massive task, and now that we've found out they've scaled back the search, it seems an almost impossible task, but I think everyone just really wants to get Samantha home.
It's been almost a week since the last known sighting of Samantha Murphy. In that time, some daytime temperatures have reached above 30 degrees. Some nights have dropped into the single digits. Police hold significant concerns for her welfare.
If there's that slight possibility that she's alive, that we need to keep looking.
Specialist detectives have broadened their investigation in a bid to find new leads. The search effort will scale back up again if it does. Jessie Thompson, ABC News.
Health Minister Chris Picton says it's not clear when authorities will finish reviewing the death of an Adelaide man who waited 10 hours for an ambulance. 54-year-old Eddie died on December 27 after experiencing abdominal pain and vomiting. 3 000 calls were made from his disability care home in Hectorville, but by the time he was triaged as a Priority 1 case and paramedics arrived, he had already died. SA Health confirmed it was an exceedingly busy period for hospitals and ambulances were being ramped on the day he died. The state's ambulance service launched a review last month. Mr Picton says 2 senior staff are working to produce a report for the government.
I haven't got an updated timeline in when that's expected to be released. Obviously, we want them to do as thorough a job as is necessary, but also I think that clearly we want to make sure that that's as soon as possible.
Pakistan's 2 leading figures in the national election have both declared victory, underlining a chaotic campaign dominated by violence. Nawaz Sharif says his party has won, but political allies of the imprisoned Imran Khan claim they have secured more seats overall.
Nawaz Sharif has claimed victory in Pakistan's election, despite results not showing a clear winner. Sharif will need to secure a coalition to govern. His party has won fewer seats than his rival Imran Khan, whose political allies ran as independents. A coalition is no easy task in a country this deeply divided. 2 people were killed in riots over delayed voting results. Many suspect that was a sign these elections are rigged, and protests erupted in areas with strong support for Khan-backed candidates. Sharif will need more than a dove to find peace in Pakistan, as the country struggles with soaring inflation and an unstable economy. Analysts have described this as one of Pakistan's least credible elections. An internet shutdown, delays in polls and slow results have triggered suspicions of vote rigging in favour of political parties backed by the country's powerful military. Just a day before the election, at least 28 people were killed in bombings at political offices. Authorities say they suspended mobile and internet services to maintain law and order. Khan supporters worry this had a disproportionate impact on their tech-heavy campaign.
I don't think Pakistan has ever seen the level of tyranny that people on the streets have faced, but they are fighting back.
With Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party using TikTok rallies to reach voters. And even artificial intelligence to deliver speeches on his behalf. But many remained defiant in spite of the blackout.
We want people to elect candidates who will resolve all of our problems, who will do something to improve our future.
In the midst of a difficult and deadly chapter in Pakistan's political history, people are focused on making a better life for themselves. Meghna Bali, ABC News.
Prince Harry has settled the final elements of his phone hacking claim against Britain's Daily Mirror and called for authorities to uphold the law when it comes to illegal behaviour by media outlets. The publisher has agreed to pay the Prince's legal costs and substantial damages.
The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, Cam the Man Hayward.
The Prince wasn't in court today. He was in the US for an NFL awards show.
I'm in shock. That's Prince Harry.
A world away from the British tabloids. In December, the High Court ruled that Prince Harry had been the victim of phone hacking by journalists at the Mirror newspapers. Now, the same publisher has settled over similar complaints relating to a further 115 articles. Outside the court, Harry's lawyer issued a statement on his behalf.
Everything we said was happening at Mirror Group was in fact happening, and indeed far worse, as the court ruled in its extremely damaging judgment.
Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror 20 years ago. Prince Harry says he knew what his reporters were up to, a claim Piers Morgan denies.
Invading the privacy of the royal family is utterly reprehensible, and on that I share Prince Harry's opinion. I just wish he'd stop doing it.
What about you? Do you wish you hadn't done it?
Have you heard from the police?
And this is not the end of Harry's crusade against Britain's notorious tabloids.
Prince Harry's guns are going to train on The Sun, and there's a case against them later in the year, and then inexorably after that on the Mail newspaper groups.
He's pushing for cultural change in the media.
I believe in the positive change it will bring for all of us.
Prince Harry said in that statement that his mission continues. That suggests he wants justice for other victims of phone hacking, and he wants to see prosecutions.
Steve Kinane, ABC News, London.
There is no cure, and hundreds of thousands of women suffer from it. But at last, a potential game changer for sufferers of the painful condition endometriosis. New specialist clinics have sprung up around Australia. Many of them had long waiting lists before they even opened their doors. Now, both doctors and advocates are calling for even more resources, saying many women, especially in regional areas, are still missing out on treatment.
Hi Leanne, come through. Good to see you again. Come in.
When you come in here, you know that you're in a safe space.
Just try to keep these muscles nice and relaxed.
Leanne Williams suffers from endometriosis, otherwise known as endo.
It almost feels like a hot poker in your bottom and someone twisting it.
It's been so painful at times that she's ended up in hospital emergency, but on one occasion, staff thought she was a drug addict.
I was screaming in pain, and for someone to look at you and go, oh, here's an addiction brochure, it's pretty condescending, and it shows a lack of understanding and a lack of empathy.
All right, so we'll just check your blood pressure. Thank you.
Fast forward 3 years, and Leanne has come a long way in her battle to be believed. She's one of the first patients to use this new federally funded clinic in suburban Perth, dedicated to endometriosis and pelvic pain. 22 of the centres have opened up around Australia in recent months, offering relief from long wait times to see specialists in the public system.
Probably almost a 2-year wait is my understanding for assessment of these patients. In that time, ongoing pain and suffering occurs.
Are you maybe able to just describe the pain to me a little bit?
Patients are screened for up to an hour before their first visit. It's a one-stop shop, offering various treatment and pain management options, including pelvic health physio.
We see, the pelvic floor becoming really tense, and that can be a large driver to their pain.
Endo happens when tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows elsewhere, usually around the ovaries. It's common. In one age group, 1 in 7 women have got it. At the opening of another of the clinics on the Gold Coast recently, advocates welcomed the new facilities, but said not enough GPs were referring their patients to them.
Take their patients seriously when they present with pelvic pain, and not just say, oh, it's normal to have pain with your period. Well, it's not. Thank you so much.
But GPs believe a lot of progress has been made on women's health generally in the 5 years since Australia launched a national action plan to tackle the chronic disease.
With 50% of our GPs now being women, this is a problem that is a common one that we deal with within general practice. And this is what's causing your pain.
Dr Nicole Higgins, who's based in Mackay, says the biggest issue now is providing care for women in remote and regional areas.
Place-based solutions are really what's important versus just plonking clinics in certain places.
The Commonwealth spent nearly $29 million on research to find a cause and a cure for endo. To put that in proportion, since 2014, the National Health and Medical Research Councils spent over $530 million on diabetes research. Advocates say endo should receive a similar investment, given its impact.
The cost to the economy is estimated to be around $9.7 billion.
In the meantime, many patients face the heartbreaking side effect of struggling to have children. Leanne has overcome that challenge with baby Orlando to prove it.
It's been since I stopped breastfeeding him that I've had an increase in pain.
It's hoped these clinics can offer alternatives to the heavy drugs many patients rely on.
Bye-bye, wave, bye-bye.
Bye.
Until a cure is found, they're only likely to get busier. Claire Moody, ABC News. The red carpet has been rolled out on the Gold Coast for Margot Robbie, Cate Blanchett and some of the nation's biggest stars. It's the 2024 ACTA Awards, celebrating our homegrown film industry. Our reporter Mackenzie Colohan was there.
The Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Awards. It's a bit of a mouthful, but they call it the Aussie Oscars, and it's really brought the stars out on the Gold Coast. It's the Australian film industry's night of nights, and the who's who were here on the red carpet. The event is quite a coup for Queensland. We've pinched the Logies off Melbourne and now the ACTA Awards off Sydney. On the red carpet earlier, we jostled for position with a hungry media pack to try and grab as many celebrities as we could. We were ignored by plenty, but we spoke to the cast and directors of Netflix horror hit Talk to Me, which is nominated for plenty of awards, Teresa Palmer, who's nominated for Best Actress, as well as another nominee, Australian acting royalty, Cate Blanchett.
What I love about these nights is it celebrates films and television media of all types, of all stripes. You know, I think that's what makes a healthy industry, when there's when the output isn't homogenous.
The guest of honour, though, was the Gold Coast's own golden girl, Margot Robbie. She's being awarded the Trailblazer Award following the incredible success of Barbie, and we managed to speak to her. Is this the most dressed up you've ever got on the Gold Coast?
I would have to say the last time I got this dolled up was probably for my Year 12 formal, and I wasn't wearing a sparkly number like this, but I felt very glamorous on the night, and that was, you know, about 5 minutes from here.
A pinch yourself moment for a local news reporter speaking to those two and rubbing shoulders with them. The award ceremony is going on right now in that theatre behind me. It isn't being broadcast live and will air a little bit later tonight.
Adelaide United has snatched a point from nothing after a 3-3 draw against Perth Glory at Hindmarsh Stadium last night. The Reds struck first with a fierce header from Hiroshi Ibasuki, with Zach Clough cementing the lead with a penalty. But the Glory came back with a vengeance, scoring 3 goals without reply. A missed penalty by return veteran Stefan Morg almost sealed a win for Perth, but a 98th minute goal from second gamer Pana Kikianis forced the teams to split the points. The draw leaves United in 8th, 2 spots out of the finals, with 2 must-win games left to play this season.
First half, I thought we were quite good, and second half, Perth got a little bit more control in the game, and we just, I suppose, you know, when you're conceding from corners and that makes it very difficult for you. So, you know, we should have maybe have killed the game off in that first half.
Australia will head to Adelaide with a 1-0 T20 series lead over the West Indies after prevailing by 11 runs at Hobart's Bellerive Oval. Sent into bat, David Warner starred in his milestone T20 international, scoring 70 off 36 as he became the first player to represent Australia 100 times in all 3 formats. Australia went on to post 7 for 213, challenging the West Indies to score the highest T20 international score at the ground to win. It was an impressive start to the chase from Brandon King and Johnson Charles, but 3 wickets from Adam Zampa proved vital for the hosts. An unbeaten half-century from Beth Mooney has propelled Australia to 277 in the 3rd Women's One-Day International against South Africa at North Sydney Oval. Captain Alyssa Healy also made 50 after winning the toss and electing to bat. Mooney started slowly but accelerated towards the end of the innings, smashing 10 boundaries on her way to 82 not out. Mazabata Klaas was the pick of the Proteus bowlers, taking 4 for 56. The Adelaide 36ers' slim finals hopes appear to have been dashed, with the team going down to the Bullets by 18 points in Brisbane. The 36ers were outscored in every quarter as Brisbane's captain, Nathan Sobey, produced a career-best game. The Guards scored 37 points before the 4th quarter even started, including 6 three-pointers. Brisbane is now just 1 win away from qualifying for the playoffs for the first time in 5 seasons. Speculation about the future of the Australian Institute of Sport in the capital is at an end, with the facility to remain in Canberra. The federal government ordered the review into AIS infrastructure last year, amid calls to move the site to southeast Queensland ahead of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games. But the review has rejected that proposal.
Certainty for a Canberra institution. The federal government has confirmed the national home of sport will stay in the capital. It's welcome news for the ACT government. The loss of the AIS, a prospect which would have been a significant blow to the planned precinct upgrades.
It's the heart of the sports element, and clearly it brings a lot of people, tourists, elite athletes, coaches into that precinct.
The Albanese government ordered an independent review of AIS infrastructure in October, amid calls to move the ageing facility to southeast Queensland. The review's report rejected that proposal, vindicating those who insisted the site needed investment, not relocation, ahead of the 2032 Games.
On a bigger concept of the Australian sporting community, to have that facility open again for trade is awesome. What it did in the lead up to Sydney was extraordinary. The results we got there reflected the commitment and the passion around sport in Australia, and I'm hoping we can reinvigorate that.
It's not clear what it will cost to get the institute up to international standards.
Our expectations were they would need to invest more than $200 million in the AIS precinct.
But Senator for the ACT and Finance Minister Katie Gallagher has flagged the Commonwealth will foot most of the bill.
Obviously, we'll work in partnership with the ACT government as we work through some of the issues around this review, but I would see this as a Commonwealth responsibility.
The remaining recommendations are being considered by the federal government ahead of the May budget. And though the Games are 8 years away, getting facilities up to scratch could be a sprint to the finish line. Isaac Naruzi, ABC News, Canberra.
More Australians are running than ever before, with major events and smaller clubs continuing to see record participation following a boom during the COVID-19 pandemic. But experts are warning those who religiously track and post on social media about their running habits may be doing more harm than good.
More than 100 people meeting at the crack of dawn, all of them chasing a runner's high.
We don't concentrate on like a pace or a time or anything like that. It's more about just getting out and moving your body.
This weekly run club in Adelaide's inner north has seen its numbers double, from 50 to 100 over the past 6 months.
COVID and lockdowns has had a positive influence on running.
Running's definitely having its moment.
It's really picked up. In the 80s it was really quite significant. Then it dropped off in the 90s and early 2000s, and you can see it now. It's coming back with a vengeance.
Social media has allowed clubs like this to take off across the country. The popularity of major events is also booming. The Sydney Marathon last year recording tens of thousands more entries than in 2022. Devices like smartwatches have also changed runners' habits.
As humans, we do like to compare and contrast. Even if we argue that we're not competitive, we like to compare ourselves to others and see how we're going.
Exercise expert Murray Drummond says while social media posts and wearables can be good for tracking results, obsessive use can quickly take away from the other health benefits of running, especially for beginners.
Comparing yourselves to others when you don't know their background, their history, their running background and so forth, it can be fraught with danger.
This run club says it's created a positive environment, focused on well-being, not times.
So you don't really need to watch, you just need to follow the group.
A movement showing no signs of slowing down. Annabelle Francis, ABC News.
On to all the weather details now, and thank you to Gail Peters for tonight's photo taken near Bow Hill on the Murray River. It was warm and sunny right across Adelaide today, reaching a top of 31.1 degrees in the city after dropping to an overnight low of 15.3. Across the state today, a high pressure system brought another dry and mostly sunny day with sweltering tops of 39 degrees in Cooper Pedy and 35 in Port Pirie. To the charts, and scattered cloud in troughs across WA's north, the NT and northwestern parts of Queensland will continue to generate heavy rain and intense thunderstorms, while onshore winds around the Queensland and New South Wales coast will also bring a few showers. Elsewhere, a ridge of high pressure should keep the remainder clear and dry. So a shower or two and 30 degrees for Brisbane tomorrow, a top of 27 in the national capital, 33 for Melbourne and 35 for Perth. Closer to home, the north is set for a scorcher tomorrow, with temperatures set to reach near or above 40 degrees in most major centres, 39 degrees the top for Roxby Downs and Port Augusta. Further south, some early morning fog patches about the lower southeast should clear for another fine and sunny day tomorrow, with up to 36 degrees in Clare and 34 in Narracourt. And a flood warning continues for the Cooper Creek. We are headed for another warm and sunny day in Adelaide tomorrow, with up to 33 degrees after a low of 15. On the waters, south to southeasterly winds to 20 knots and seas around a metre. The sun will rise at around 6:45 and set at 8:15. And looking further ahead, it will remain fine and sunny over the next 7 days, with up to 38 degrees on Monday, down to 25 on Wednesday, before bouncing back to 34 this time next week. That is the latest from the Adelaide newsroom. Thank you for your company. From all the team here, have a great night.